Right, hi guys, and welcome back to the Crawl Room. We are back once again in this wonderful ranty room for all things Formula One. Here we are once again to kick it all off. 24 races to talk about, and this is race numero uno. And what a way to kick the season off with, Australia as the opener for the first time in a few years. And my oh my, did it deliver. We had some great racing, some great overtaking, some great just strategic gambles in the mix of conditions that were wet, dry, wet, dry. It had a little bit of everything, didn't it? We had safety cars, we had several rookies on the grid that all sort of made their own mistakes throughout the weekend. There's just so much to talk about, so much to divulge, and yeah, let's get started. So if you've never seen this series before, I award the drivers out a maximum of 10 points based on their overall race weekend's performance, and I go all the way down to 0 if they have a particularly bad one. Take a look out for bonus points. They're sometimes an offer if some drivers do something extra special during a race, and on the rare occasion I do award minus points to those drivers who do something extra special, but for all the wrong reasons. There's no scoreboard to take a look at just yet, of course. This is round one. There we are starting from a clean sheet, just like the championship itself. So whatever the drivers score this time around will be added to their tally ongoing throughout the course of the season. A massive thanks as always goes out to Dan Bartlett, of course, for providing me with the scoreboard, for the intro that you saw on the screen, for the driver icons you're going to see in the corner of your screen as well, and to Dave F1 Games PlayStation for providing me with the of the weeks. You don't know what's coming yet, but you know they're coming. You know they're coming. And this season we are going for the 2000s theme. That's right, the early 2000s era. So we've got a theme of the 2000s throughout the series, as well as the 2000 reject drivers as well. So each time we come to a race weekend, try and have a guess who it is. So without further ado then, I've done all the terms and conditions and everything. We're going to kick things off with the race winner, aren't we? Of course we are. Lando Norris in that mighty McLaren car. Well, McLaren has certainly got their act together, and it looked like they got their act together throughout testing, didn't it? It looked like pre-season testing at Bahrain, they were on form, and this race around proved that. It certainly did. They were on pole, lined up front row on the grid, of course, both McLaren drivers, and in the race were quite dominant as well. Even with the safety car interventions and things like that, Lando still was able to keep ahead of the cars around him, the cars behind him, and was just overall perfect this weekend. But that's what it's expected of him. It's like Abu Dhabi, wasn't it? Abu Dhabi, for some reason, Lando Norris won McLaren the Constructors' Championship just at Abu Dhabi because he won the race. No, he did a job that was set out for him to do with the car he was given. He's got the best car on the grid. It's clear to see. I mean, 16 seconds out of Max Verstappen before that safety car intervention to start with for those McLaren drivers. That's a quick bloody car in my books. We'd certainly be saying that Red Bull, if they were doing that, we'd be saying that was the dominant car. McLaren, the dominant car this season to kick the season off with at least. Lando Norris, a great drive, a great weekend all overall. Beat his teammate in qualifying, beat his teammate in the race. There's not much else to say about that, is there? I think he picked up the fastest lap as well, but there's no fastest lap points available this season, which is weird. I don't know why they've got rid of that rule, but yeah, they have, and that's gone now. So for Lando Norris this weekend, he's had a great weekend, a solid weekend overall, and I am going to award him 9.5. Oh my God, I can hear the cries already. Why isn't he giving him a perfect 10? Why is he not giving him a perfect 10? Because he's a hero. He's a hero. Where's your British bias, Josh? Well, the only reason I'm not awarding Lando Norris a perfect 10 is for the fact that Oscar was catching him at points during that race, especially when they had a big cushion when Max got ahead of Piastri. There was a moment there where Oscar, before he made a mistake at turn 6 in the early phases, overtook Max and then caught up to the back of Lando Norris again. So that kind of meant that at certain stages during that race weekend, Oscar was a little bit quicker in the race. Okay, nothing came of it, but just a little word of warning there, a little note to notice. And also, of course, for that little off that he had, which ended up being more substantially for his teammate behind. But Lando Norris could have easily ended up how Oscar Piastri ended up. So he was lucky in that, so it didn't work out as bad. But again, I'm not knocking half a point off just for the sake of it. I've got to be cruel to be kind on this series. You know what I'm like when it turns out that the drivers have got dominant cars. I mean, there was one race last year where Max only got 7 and everyone's like, oh my God, why do you only get 7? So yeah, you know, dominant car, dominant driver, great result, the smallest of errors I am going to pick on. I'm sorry, that's just how it is. It's called the Cruel Room, for God's sake. If you've never seen the series before, see the word cruel and then look it up in a dictionary. That's what it is. 9.5 to Lando Norris, not criticising his weekend at all. He's had a superb one. There was just other drivers up and down the field that I felt did that little bit better. In second place, we come to Max Verstappen in the Red Bull. Well, we didn't expect them to be here, did we? I certainly didn't anyway. Red Bull, of course, absolutely nowhere really in testing. Max looked like he could handle the car at times and in certain situations, but I wasn't expecting P3 on the grid at all. I thought even over one lap, Max was going to be struggling to be anything better than P5. So to line up P3 was a great effort. To take to take a position off of Oscar Piastri at the start was a great effort, and to hold him off for the few laps that he did do was a great effort in itself. Finishing here in P2 is a great result. Red Bull already bringing updates to that car, which Max Verstappen had and Liam Lawson didn't, so it's just worth noting that they had a new nose cone and some alterations on the front floor. Max's car obviously benefited from that. And it obviously meant that the range of working operation was a lot better for Max this time around. Wet conditions, of course, Max loves them as well. Max Verstappen this weekend is a perfect 10 from me for him. I think he's done a solid job there. What he did was absolutely superb. We had that little wide moment, didn't we, where Oscar was able to slip back through, but Max was already struggling with the tyre life there, just chewing the intermediates up a little bit too much. But again, he just even made a mistake perfectly. Coming off the brake, back on the brake, off the brake, on the brake. He was like doing his own ABS, so he didn't just go sailing off down the escape route, or so he didn't go bouncing through the gravel and getting stuck in there. He thought about it, he realised what was going on, and just went wide. And I think that's a commendable effort for Max. So yeah, that was only the mistake we saw of him this weekend. With a car that's incredibly tricky to handle, looks like Red Bull are getting on top of things already with the updates. I would say they have worked. But to what extent, we're not quite sure yet, because we need to see how Lawson gets on when he gets the updates. But yeah, we'll see. But for now, Max Verstappen, perfect 10 from me for him, because that was a stunning drive. In third place, we come to George of the Russell. Watch out for that podium. Absolutely, here he is, George Russell, looking into a podium, but he was strong all race. You can't fault him of that. Qualifying an impressive P4, running round P4 throughout the entirety of the race, and then when Oscar Piastri fell off, it meant that George was P3, and that's pretty much how his race went. We hardly saw anything of George Russell. To be honest, he had a little mistake in practice, didn't he, where he had a little off and didn't quite hit the wall and managed to reverse. But apart from that, this weekend has been faultless by George. It really has. It's difficult to really work out the pace of that Mercedes, but I would say it's stronger than it was last year. I don't think it's going to be as strong as how we saw Mercedes, for example, at Spa, where they ended up with a 1-2. Obviously, George got disqualified, but, you know, I don't think we're talking that kind of pace. But I think we're talking the podium level of paces that is required of Mercedes, and I think George is able to extract that out of the car. He's done a great job this weekend, George. He really, really has. No faults from me. P4 in qualifying. I don't think he could be expected to do much better than that. And the race itself ending up P3 behind Max Verstappen, who's just incredible, and Lando Norris, who was in a really quick McLaren and did a really good job. I think P3 is more than respectable. Keeping it on the road, keeping it tidy, and doing a great job. 10 points from me for George as well. He kept it going, kept it out of trouble. Superb effort. Well done, George of the Russell. 10 from me. And of course, finishing behind his teammate, we come to Andrea Kimi Antonelli. Yes, the rookie, of course, debuting in Formula 1 and finishing here in P4 after a difficult qualifying session, it must be said. Yeah, difficult qualifying. He damaged the rear floor going over a curb at turn 6, which meant that the floor dropped from one of its stays, so it was just sagging down and then rubbing across the ground, causing massive aero problems, and of course dragging as well doesn't help. So I was out in Q1, a Q1 elimination. But to see him here finishing in P4, did cross the line in P4, had a 5-second time penalty dropping him to P5 for an unsafe pit release. Mercedes appealed that, and that was rightfully sustained. The appeal was approved, it was correct, and they revoked the 5-second time penalty. So Andrea Kimi Antonelli gets his 4th place back. Well done, team. Well done, FIA. But yeah, Andrea Kimi Antonelli finishing P4 here after starting outside the top 15. What was he, 16th? Just missed out on the Q2 appearance. A great effort for a rookie. Really is. Now, of course, with rookies, I'm normally a little bit generous for the first few races, but I've decided now I'm not going to be. What they are going to be scoring is the points that I feel are deserved, as if they've done 5,000 races in Formula 1. Because the rookies now aren't rookies, are they? You know, yeah, you can say, well, they've not had much F1 weekend experience, but they've had a shitload of testing in older technology F1 cars that are still to this regulation. And they have so much simulator training, they have all sorts going on. So I'm not judging them as rookies anymore, I'm judging them on how they've done each weekend. And yeah, sometimes we can allow a little rookie error here and there, but nothing major. So Antonelli made the error in qualifying, damaging his rear floor, knocked out in Q1. Where could he have been without that? Just think about that. And of course, in the race, had that spin that was pretty much reminiscent to what Russell did in practice. However, didn't come to much. He just lost a couple of places and was able to regain those positions quickly. And timed it really well with the strategy as well to gain on those that decided to stay out on the dry tyres when it was clearly pissing it down. Andrea Kimi Antonelli, it's going to be 8 points from me. A really solid debut to him. Honestly, what a fantastic way. I just have to be a little bit cruel to be kind there in terms of the spin that could have easily been a wall incident that we saw from so many others this weekend. And of course the poor pace in qualifying, knocking himself out in Q1 due to floor damage. You know that. You know you don't go wide at corners, and the F1 cars are very fragile mistresses, shall we say. Yeah, they're certainly hardy in some respects, but very weak in others. And he found the limits this weekend. No disrespect to Andrea, I'm just not treating them as rookies anymore, even though they are rookies. Cruel to be kind and all that. 8 points to Kimi Antonelli. Finishing in 5th place, we come to Alex Albon in that Williams. Here we go, here we go, here we go. Alex Albon only scored 12 points all season last season, and here he is with a handsome 10 points on the board to start the season off with. What a great, great, great performance by Alex. Out-qualified Carlos Sainz, outraced Carlos Sainz, and delivered an impressive points haul for Williams at Australia. Redemption from last year, I very much think so. But not only that, I think a redemption to quite a lot of his critics straight away. Of course, Sainz is still finding his feet with a new team and finding out how they work and operate, etc., which is going to take its toll to start with. But everyone, including myself, was expecting Carlos Sainz to be the dominant driver straight away. And it's not happened, has it? It hasn't happened. It might happen for the rest of the season now, but it didn't happen this time around when everyone expected it to. Yeah, honestly, Alex didn't put a wheel wrong. He has done so well this weekend. I can't think of a single mistake he's made at all. Practice, you could say, yeah, but Carlos Sainz was more impressive in practice. Points aren't scored in practice, either. It matters in qualifying, it matters in the race. And I think Alex certainly found his feet well in the practice sessions and did a great job and delivered the results in qualifying and the race. Finishing ahead, qualifying ahead of Ferraris. Just think about that for a second. What a stunning effort. So yeah, qualifying himself in P6, finishing in P5. He's getting a bonus point from me. He's getting 11. He's getting 11. Alex Albon is the first driver this season to score a bonus point because that was sublime. And I'm also giving him that point for the fact that he's proved doubters wrong straight away. Like I say, he's probably going to have some difficult moments throughout the season. We've got 24 races. You can't be on your game all the time. But this time around, he has certainly wiped the floor with Carlos Sainz, I would say, quite comfortably, and delivered a great result for Williams. 11 to Alex Albon. Next up, finishing in 6th place, we come to Lando Stroll. How on earth did that happen? How did that happen? Has Lando Stroll been respectable for an entire weekend without making any errors, any issues, and causing any problems? And do you want to know what's best? He did all that and we saw nothing of him in the race. I didn't see one thing about Lando Stroll all race, and it was bliss. Because I knew he was there. And I was hopeful that the next camera shot we always pan to was a sight and scene of him just absolutely harpooning it off into a wall and coming up with a stupid radio message. But we heard nothing from him. We saw nothing of him. And because the cameras weren't on him, it meant he was doing a great job. P6, that Aston Martin doesn't look as bad as I was expecting. A Q2 appearance from him is more than respectable. Lining himself up in P13, was it? P14? Only a place or two behind Alonso, and then in the race itself delivered a P6 finish. Didn't put a wheel wrong. I think that deserves commending. Have I ever done this before? I don't know. Someone will know in the comments, but it's a perfect 10. It's a perfect 10. Have I gone mad already? What the hell's happening? Lance Stroll, a perfect 10 from you, my friend, because I cannot think of a single thing that went wrong that weekend for you. And some people say, yeah, maybe you should have finished ahead of a Williams, though. I don't think so. I think that Williams car is really strong, and we knew it was. And I think the Aston Martin is stronger than we expected it to be, but it's still not on pace with the Williams. Yeah, I don't know what more you can say. Over a single lap, I was expecting him to be an easy Q1 elimination. So the fact that he was able to get into Q2 and then finish ahead of a car at least in that session is more than respectable. Matching his teammate practically there, and then in the race beating his teammate ultimately. Yeah, he was behind him, but he didn't stuff it in a wall. Just saying. Just saying. Perfect 10 to Lance Stroll. I've gone balmy. I've been doing this far too long. 10. And in 7th place we come to Nico Hulkenberg. Oh, needed that. Nico Hulkenberg here securing P7 and 6 points for the Steak Sauber Kick Me Up the Arse Romeo squad. They only scored 4 points all season last season. Here they are with 6 on the board already. A somewhat unlikely result by any, we weren't expecting this result. I wasn't expecting that result. Neither was Steak, and neither was Nico Hulkenberg. Qualifying was a difficult one for Nico, though. Out-qualified by his teammate Gabriel Bortoleto, lining up in P17, so was ahead of some cars. But, yeah, should have been ahead of his teammate in that scenario. He should have been the one getting that Q2 appearance, I feel, just based on the experience alone. Didn't happen, though, but in the race itself, just kept out of trouble. Again, we didn't really see anything of Nico Hulkenberg, and this weekend, that was a good thing. If we weren't focusing on you, then it meant you weren't at the front or you weren't crashing. That's it. If you were mid-pack, forget about you. And forget about him, we did, until it came to the last few laps. You're like, oh, Nico's there, good lad. And he did a good job. Like I said, the experience of Nico Hulkenberg in that Steak team has already played dividends in this race scenario. Didn't make a mistake, didn't put a wheel wrong, and had good pace to be able to deliver a solid result for the team. P7, a more than respectable finish. And again, you can't say he should have finished ahead of an Aston. You can't say he should have finished ahead of a Williams. He has finished above some cars that he shouldn't have been anywhere near. I was expecting the Steak team to be where Haas are right now. What the hell's happened to them? I don't understand it. And the fact that they were already better than Haas meant they were already higher than I expected, but I still weren't expecting points. And yeah, then you're thinking, well, if they can get around 14th, 15th, something like that, that's respectable. P7, great effort. Great effort by Nico Hulkenberg. Of course, loads of drivers fell by the wayside. That's their fault, that's not Nico's. And it's going to be 8 points from me for Nico Hulkenberg, knocking a couple of points off for the poor qualifying performance. I feel that was a key thing where I was like, Nico, already this weekend, beaten by your really inexperienced teammate Bortoleto. Probably the most inexperienced out of the new rookies. And yeah, that was just a little black mark against his name straight away there, because I was expecting that to be a Q2 appearance from Nico, and it wasn't. But apart from that, absolutely superb. But again, cruel to be kind and all that lot. Long season ahead. 8 points to Hulkenberg. Great effort, though. Great effort. Finishing in 8th place, we come to Sha-la-la. Oh, my God, Ferrari are back. Where have they been? Where have they been? Oh, my God. Oh, my God. This didn't happen at all last year, really, apart from maybe sticking Leclerc on Inters far too soon at Silverstone last year. But apart from that, they got it spot on last year, and here we go this year. Charles Leclerc, I've got a lot of water in my seat. The radio comes back, it must be the water. Sum up a race weekend in one sentence, it must be the water. What fucking geniuses at Ferrari. They built a car that's shitter than I expected it to be. They were looking like they'd done a risky strategy that had played out, but then it ended up in nothing because they kept them out on the slick tyres far too long, to the point where they ended up losing more places than they should have lost. They'd have been around 4th and 5th, 5th and 6th had this fucking ridiculous strategy at the end not happened, where they were put on an absolutely nothing, hiding to nowhere strategy, where they're just left out to die on the dry tyres on a wet track. Just unbelievable. But the weird thing is, I love Leclerc, and I put him down as winning the championship this year, or at least being a realistic outsider against the McLarens and doing a stunning job. But Ferrari have just thrown it all away from him already, straight away this race, where he could claw some good points, and instead we're here talking about him behind a fucking Sauber. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. So Leclerc, my heart bleeds for you, mate. It really does. But I just found it funny. I just found Ferrari being Ferrari funny. So, for Shalala, apart from a spin in the race, he didn't really do much else wrong, but it's going to be 8 points for that. Cruel to be kind again, and all that nonsense. Leclerc, 8 points from me. Yeah, that's enough said, but yeah, Ferrari are back, and I don't mean in a good way. 9th place, we come to Oscar Piastri. What's your favourite pastry? I'm not too sure what his favourite pastry will be this weekend, but it'll be something that's very wet and moist, no doubt. Oscar was doing a great job this weekend until it came to whatever lap it was, where the rain came down at the end of Sector 3. His teammate went off ahead. Piastri went off a little bit more, spat himself back across the track, and then beached himself in the grass on the opposite side of the corner. Took him over a minute to reverse out. He ended up having to make it a front-wheel drive car and select reverse and go backwards to get himself back onto terra firma, back on the track and back in the race. A safety car period helped him regain the lap he'd lost and also onto the back of the crocodile as well, and was able to carve his way from the back of the field then, which was about 15 cars left at that point, wasn't there, and get himself into 9th. He's avoided an of the week for that mistake, because there was a lot of drivers making lots of mistakes this weekend, and some I feel need punishing more than others. I've only got 3 of the weeks every weekend. Remember that as well, guys. Like last year we had enough to give enough out, but this time around we're already sort of scraping the barrel. How dare I know, but I hope once the season pans out a little bit, I'm not going to need them all the time, but I only get 3 per weekend, and I've got to use them wisely. Oscar Piastri this weekend, it was a crucial error, it was a big error, but the rest of his weekend was relatively unscathed, relatively perfect. Not a match for his teammate in qualifying, was matching him in the race though, or starting to, after a difficult start, so he'd probably be looking at about a 7 from me personally, had it not been for that mistake that cost him so much. But with that mistake that cost him so much, it's going to be 3. It's going to be 3 points to Oscar Piastri. He does avoid an of the week. I don't think he's worthy of it based on what we saw of him. That mistake literally happened to anyone. It could have happened to anyone this weekend, and it happened to Piastri. How many cars did we see not making a mistake, really? The ones that we didn't see on telly. So Hulkenberg, Stroll, weird. Albon, we didn't see much of. There wasn't many, really, that didn't make a mistake at some point. So, yeah, Oscar Piastri, if he'd have done this any other weekend, it would have been an of the week. But there's so many people that are worthy of one, and, yeah, I've had to kind of make a best of a bad situation and award the ones that I think were more deserving of one. But, yes, 3-2, Oscar Piastri. And the final points paying position goes to Lewis Hamilton in the Ferrari. Seems strange to say that, but it is true. Here he is in red, and yeah, he's been Ferrari'd, hasn't he? Welcome to Ferrari. Welcome to Ferrari, Lewis Hamilton, because, yeah, baptism of fire. K1, press K1. Shut the fuck up, will you, about K1? Yeah, but if you do press it, though, just let me know. Let me know you've pressed K1. K1. Yes, I'm driving. Give me less information, please. Don't talk to me while I'm racing. Yeah, sorry about that, Lewis, but just to let you know, K1 is available. Press K. Yeah, well, I will when I'm closer. Yeah, but if you just press it, though, just press K1. You've got K1 available. K1. It must be the water. Fuck, unbelievable. And then to stick him out on a strategy, just like Leclerc, where you just get left out to dry. I mean, it's unbelievable. And then when they're putting the tyres on, they put hard tyres on as well in the slick, like the hardest compound to heat up in cool conditions with wet line everywhere. And, oh, hard tyres will be fine. Don't worry about it. And he's like, go medium. Please go medium. Hards. Go hards. Great. So, yeah, Lewis Hamilton this weekend. It's been a tough one, hasn't it? 8th in qualifying. Here he is picking up a point in 10th. It wasn't really his fault. He's just ended up being a casualty of Ferrari. Unbelievable. Unbelievable, Jeff. It's going to be 6.5 from me for Lewis. I don't think he had a good weekend overall as his teammate Leclerc, but nonetheless, a character building first weekend with Ferrari. I hope they iron out these issues, but these issues weren't here last year, and they've already reared their ugly head into race 1. Oh dear. 6.5 to Hamilton. Great to see him in a Ferrari, but my God, what the hell were they playing at? Then we come to the first driver just missing out on the points, and that is, of course, Pierre Gasly in the Alpine. He had a great start to the race overall. He got ahead of Yuki Tsunoda, was fighting around for that 5th place. This is when all cars are still on track, well, the majority of them anyway, and did a great job. The race dried up. Again, Gasly was a perfect strategy. Got in and out, no problems at all. Did a really solid job there. And then the rain came, and it didn't go so well. Gasly made a huge mistake, which cost him several places towards the end of the race as well as being put on the worst strategy. Not the worst. It wasn't Ferrari bad, but it wasn't great either. So lost positions due to a mistake. Lost places due to the slowish timing, the wrong timing of a pit stop, and then made a mistake later on in the race as well, running wide, and that dropped him behind the Ferraris and of course Oscar Piastri as well. Cost himself from 8th to 11th in that scenario, and that was a difficult one because I think he was deserving of that 8th place. He really was, but points didn't come for Alpine this time around. The car looks solid though, looks respectable, scraped himself into Q3, which is a good effort. He was unlucky, he was unlucky this time around as well, because had Doohan not had that yellow flag for the spin for Hamilton in qualifying for Q2, where Doohan had to abort his lap, I think Doohan was on a faster lap, you know, and I think he would have scraped into Q3, but that's by the by, that's if buts and maybes. So for Pierre Gasly, it's going to be a Miller 05 from me for him, for what was a solid weekend, a great performance, had great moments in the race, but then a couple of little errors. A bad strategic call, wasn't him, that was the team. A bad strategic call put him lower down the top 10 than he deserved to be, and then ultimately a mistake dropped him outside the points where he certainly should have been. He should have been inside the points, should have been inside that top 8 as an absolute minimum, so to walk away with nothing is very disappointing. Miller 05 to Gasly, again a tough score to give, but I think that's fair based on what happened overall this weekend. 12th place, we come to Yuki Tsunoda in the first of the Racing Visa Cash App Bull tampons. You know when I said about the make sure that screw Tsunoda over, just to like really compound the factor that didn't want him there, and just to make it look a little bit better that they made the right choice in putting Liam Lawson in that seat. Well, that's exactly what they went and did, didn't they? They give him the Ferrari strategy for the Racing Bull team. They executed Plan C, which stood for crap. Yes, that's right, they gave him the crappiest strategy possible to drop him outside that top 5 position he was rightly fighting for and deserving to be after qualifying himself in P5. And then they just left him out to die. Just, yeah, keep going around on slicks, mate. We don't give a shit about you. You're not pitting. You're not, fuck off. We don't even want you. P12. P12 should have been a top 5 finish, that. Should have been where Antonelli was in theory, because he was ahead of Albon, wasn't he? Should have been a P4, that. Should have been, but wasn't. Congratulations, Racing Bulls, once again for proving me right that you don't give a shit about Yuki, and your strategies are that crap that you'd sooner cost your own team points than see Tsunoda do well. Maybe I'm jumping to conclusions a little bit this time around because other teams got it wrong, but when there's only Ferrari getting it that really wrong and yourselves, you need to look in the mirror. Really do. Yuki Tsunoda, I've been really harsh with this score actually. It is 8. It's 8. It should be a perfect 10, shouldn't it, to be honest? Tsunoda did nothing wrong, but I just feel there's that many 10s flying around and it's called the cruel room. I thought Racing Bull have clearly been a little bit cruel with him, as have Red Bull. Yeah, shown Liam Lawson right up. But yeah, Yuki Tsunoda, no disrespect to him at all this weekend. He has driven faultlessly, superbly, sublimely. If it keeps performances up like this, though, there's no reason why Yuki Tsunoda won't be a contender for the overall Cruel Room Championship this year. He was close last year, but fell away. This time around, though, after a drive like that, deserved more. 8 to Tsunoda. Finishing in an unlucky for some P13, we come to Esti Bestie, oh God, Esti Bestie to you. Ain't like Esti Bestie Ocon. That's right, here he is, P13 in a dog shit ass. Unbelievable. Apparently, Valtteri Bottas in testing has said that car looks shit. I think they're going on high fuel loads just to hide out how crap they actually are, because of course they did high fuel loads last year and then they were a rocket ship. Well, not quite a rocket ship, but very respectable. This time around they went on high fuel loads to hide the fact that they were crap. Lining up P19 for Esteban Ocon, just finishing ahead of his teammate who didn't actually qualify. Yeah, terrible. Absolutely terrible. I don't know what on earth to do or say or think. It's just crap. So yeah, Esteban Ocon, very, very disappointing start to his campaign with his new team. Won't be long before he falls out with his teammate, but he hasn't fallen out with him yet. So we'll have to keep a track of that, see how long it takes. But race 1 so far, not falling out with his teammate, but that's because he's beaten him. Yeah, Esteban Ocon, difficult start for Haas, difficult start for his new campaign as well. It's a solid 7 from me. Solid 7 to Esty Bestie. Don't think he's done anything wrong this weekend. I just think the car is absolutely dog shit. P19 was the most he was ever going to get out of it. Finished near P13 after all that chaos and drama. Probably the most he was going to get out of it as well. Terrible. 7 to Ocon. Last of the runners, we come to Ollie Bearman in the second of the Haasses.
In 2001, I only competed in a few races before the money dried up. At least I have the accolade of being Argentina's last F1 driver to date. Oh, wait.
And there we have it, the first of the week awarded to Ollie Bearman, the first one of the season. It is, of course, Gaston Mazzacane. What a beautiful 2000 name that is. The early 2000s were sublime for some shit drivers, and Gaston Mazzacane was certainly one of those. Yes, has to be awarded to Ollie Bearman, I'm afraid, for shunting in free practice 1. Oh dear, big damage actually. Quite a lot of damage to that Haas car, more than we thought. Free practice 2 couldn't get out as a result of that damage that he sustained in FP1, and then free practice 3, right Ollie, just bed yourself down, calm yourself. Oh shit, he's gone off on his first flying lap, bollocks. So yeah, fell off in his first flying lap in Q3, beached it in the gravel, thankfully didn't hit any walls, but still not great. Car couldn't get out for qualifying. Well, he did get out for qualifying, but did an outlap, and on the outlap the gearbox broke as a result of the damage that he sustained in FP1, which they would have found in FP3 had he not stuffed it into the gravel. And then the race itself went fine. Nothing went wrong in the race at all, apart from obviously the Haas really bad calls with staying out on slicks when they didn't need to, but they were gambling on something that didn't happen, just try and gain some positions that didn't work out. But that doesn't matter. Ollie Bearman, yeah, you might have kept it on the road in the race, but my God, what were you doing the rest of the weekend? You know, the important bits of the race, I totally get that, but shunt, off, damage, like just, it has to be an of the week. Poor start to his career. Really poor. So yeah, Ollie Bearman, of the week to him. Disappointing to give it him so early on in his first full campaign, but yeah, he gets 1, and if he gets 5 or more throughout this season, once he gets to 5, he's on a final warning, and then will be thrown out of the championship and disqualified. So yeah, he's already 1 down, 4 to go. Good luck, Ollie. Yeah, needs to really pick it up for China. Love the bloke, honestly do. I think he's a great guy, great driver. But yeah, he did well in the race. He did respectable in the race, but the rest of the weekend was nil and void due to his own stupid antics. Then we come to the first DNF, of course, on this list. The last to actually DNF it in the race, and it is Liam Lawson.
My F1 career was short but not so sweet. I raced for Minardi and Prost, which were always at the back of the field. That being said, I still delivered some impressive crashes.
And there we have it, another Gaston Mazzacane. Like waiting for a bus, isn't it? You wait almost 100 days on the crawl room to see an of the week, and you get 2 in 1. Good old Gaston Mazzacane to kick the season off with, and it has to be awarded to Liam Lawson for just the absolute lack of pace. I know we've already briefly covered with Max Verstappen that Max has got a new nose on his car and a new front floor compared to Liam. That will be making a difference. But, you know, you could always go for the route of, well, you know, Perez struggled, Albon struggled, Gasly struggled, Ricciardo wanted to leave before he started to struggle, and you could use that all as an excuse, but we need to hold these drivers to account, we really do. Liam Lawson probably fed to the fishes by Red Bull to stick him in that Red Bull seat so early when they should have picked Tsunoda. But instead they've gone for a driver that had some great races for the Racing Bulls team, without a doubt. You know, you're not denying the fact he did so well at Singapore a couple of seasons ago. You're not denying the strong performance he's had, but 11 races into a career to get a big seat within a team that you know provides a car that only Max Verstappen can really handle, and you've not seen how Lawson can really react to that. An interesting one, really interesting one. So yeah, Liam Lawson struggled, probably not all his fault. But at the end of the day, a crash, a Q1 elimination. The Red Bull, this is the thing, a Red Bull shouldn't be a Q1 elimination, even if it's impossible to drive. Just the sheer pace of the car alone should be enough just to... It's frustrating, isn't it? It's frustrating. So yeah, Liam Lawson, unfortunately, it's an of the week to him. No hate to him, love Liam, honestly, I really do. I hoped it was a lot better than this for his start of the season, but that couldn't have gone much worse, really, could it? It really couldn't. Difficult one, really difficult. Of the week to Liam Lawson. Next up we come to Gabriel Bortoleto, who also stacked it off into the wall pretty much the same time as Liam Lawson, actually. Wasn't there 2 stationary cars at once there? 2 for the price of 1. Gabriel Bortoleto avoids an of the week from me. 1, because I've only got 3 to give out, and I've already given 2 out already. And also because I thought he was doing a respectable job before that incident happened. We need to take into consideration the fact the amount of drivers that were making mistakes out there. Some of them were lucky enough just to spin and not hit the wall. Others weren't so lucky. But when you see that there's Carlos Sainz in this list, there's Fernando Alonso in here as well. Gabriel Bortoleto, you can sort of forgive the inexperience a little bit in this scenario. He drove really well in qualifying, out-qualified his teammate Nico Hulkenberg, of course, which is a far, far, far respectable result from me. I think that was impressive to get going. He drove maturely in the race. He really did. And then that one error where several drivers made mistakes, he gave a cropper. He didn't just get stuck on the grass like Piastri. He ended up unfortunately finding the wall, and that's just unlucky. It really is. Gabriel Bortoleto, his debut, it didn't end the way he wanted it to, but I think he's put on a strong performance, shall we say. Out of the retirements, the maximum I can score a retirement, no matter when it happens in a race, is 5. That's how I like to keep it fair. I don't think that DNFers should be earning more than the cars that finished at times in certain situations. But yeah, DNFs can be awarded up to 5. I'm giving Bortoleto a very generous 4. Yeah, he stuffed it into the wall. It shouldn't have happened. But there was something about him this weekend that made me think, yeah, you've got it. You've definitely got it. So yeah. Out of the rookies, he's ended up in the worst car, the most difficult one. He was pretty much the last one to fall off, really. Fell off in sympathy with Liam Lawson, of the rookies that did crash. And he's gained some experience, he's gained some knowledge, he's got pace, he's got consistency as well, but just a little error that everyone else sort of brushed off and was able to continue. Unfortunately found the wall. 4 points to Bortoleto. I have a maximum of 5 a retirement can score, and I'm not going to be as generous anymore, but he did impress me. Then we come to Fernando Alonso in the second of the Aston Martins. Avoids an of the week by fractions. Absolute fractions. And the way that I have awarded this of the week is because he was out racing Stroll, he did out qualify Stroll, and he also stayed on the normal racing line when he had his off. It was the gravel that caught him out, that had been brought onto the track by a wide moment from a car ahead, so he was the first one to find that gravel. And I think had that been anyone else that was behind the car that went off, they'd have all been going off as well. Be it Lando, be it Max, I think Alonso was put in a very difficult situation there. An impossible situation almost, where the gravel meant that the car obviously lifted off the ground, which caused the intermediate tyres to stall, put him back down on a slightly different section of the track, which wasn't quite as dry, and spat him off into the wall. I think he was an innocent bystander in all of that, to be honest with you, Alonso. You could say his racing prowess and the amount of races he's taken in Formula 1 should get him out of a situation like that. I'm in somewhat agreement of that. Yeah, that's why he avoids an of the week. But I have awarded him 2. 2. Harshly, probably 2, considering I scored Bortoleto 4. But yeah, for me personally, Alonso, master of his own demise in some respects. You know, just unfortunate position of the car. One of those things, really. One of those things. Difficult one to talk about, isn't it? But yeah, Alonso avoids an of the week. Surely his experience would have avoided that situation, but he didn't. And he gets a 2 for it. See how he gets on in China, which I'm sure he'll out-qualify and out-race Lance Stroll once again. Did well in China last year as well, let's not forget that in the sprint. So, yeah, fingers crossed that Alonso can get it together again. But for now, just 2 points from an unfortunate situation. Next to the retirements, we come to Carlos Sainz. Smooth operator. Not smooth this time, I'm afraid, Carlos.
I I was voted the worst driver of the season in 2000 and 2001. Pretty impressive considering those were the only 2 seasons I took part in during my Formula 1 career.
And there we have it. The third and final of the week goes to, of course, Carlos Sainz. What a shame. What a shame. And it is harsh to give him it. It is. It is harsh for me to give Carlos Sainz the of the week. But as we've talked about, small margins when I've only got 3 to give. 3 to give. Let me know if you'd have given them to anyone else different, but I think these 3 that I've given it were the most deserving. Carlos Sainz, out-qualified by Alex Albon, was being outraced by Alex Albon before he went off into the wall. They said it was a gear sync ratio issue, so the car juddered into gear as opposed to smoothly going in as a result of the safety car coming out. And that caused the car to have a little bit of a snap, and that's what sent Sainz off into the wall. Again, you know, not really, when you think about it, not really Sainz's fault, but gear sync issues have happened in the wet before and people haven't binned it off. Yeah, unfortunate, I would say. It's a harsh of the week by... Absolutely it is. It is an harsh of the week. But I feel where you look at where Alex finished, Carlos Sainz, had he not had that off, would have been up there with him, and that would have been a massive haul of points for Williams. So yeah, not the debut he would have wanted, and I think he'll appreciate why I've given him all of the week, because it wasn't what he wanted, and it's not what I wanted either. I wanted to see Carlos Sainz do really well. Promise was there in practice, didn't execute in qualifying, and then in the race was off really before it even began. And that's that. So yeah, Carlos Sainz, the third and final of the week, this race to him. Unfortunate, harsh, but necessary. Then we come to Jack Doohan, the driver that also binned it on lap 1, but just a little bit further round. He's getting a 2 from me as well. Same as Fernando Alonso. We know there's no more of the weeks to give. Jack Doohan, unlucky. Unlucky in Q2 because he was on a good lap there, but had to come across Lewis Hamilton's spinning Ferrari, which was yellow flags, and aborted his lap. Qualified in P14 as a result of that. I think there was potential Q3 pace there because he had some good pace in Q1. We didn't see what it would have been, but it certainly would have been a lot better than 14th for Doohan anyway, let's put it that way. Maybe even fringes of top 10 if he didn't quite get into Q3. The race itself fell victim to the white line on lap 1 and stuffed it into the wall rather heavily. It's the same story for them all, really. All these casualties were casualties of the barriers, unfortunately, and the conditions that were out on track presented. So Doohan, it's 2 from me for him. I think it was a strong qualifying, and if only he could have just kept it going and kept it clean, it would have been points were possible in the race as well. So yeah, Doohan impressed me more than I thought he would on Saturday. Couldn't see what he was capable of on Sunday. And last but by no means least, we come to Isack Hadjar in the second of the Visa Maxi Tampon Red Bull cars that, whatever. I don't honestly know what to say about Isack Hadjar other than, is it Isack Hadjar or is it Isack Hadjar? It seems like you don't have to open your mouth when David Croft says his name. It's Isack Hadjar. Oh, who's that? Who's that, David? It's Isack Hadjar. Oh, right, okay, no worries. Would you like to open your mouth? No. Right, no worries. Like a fucking ventriloquist dummy when he says his name. Isack Hadjar. Who the fuck is he? What a fucking bellend. So, yeah, Isack Hadjar. I'm going to address him by his proper title. Yeah, gutted to see him out on the formation lap. Just such a shame. Such a shame. Pressure's on his shoulders. You know, Helmut Marko's a bellend again and said, oh, a bit too... what was it? A bit too embarrassing seeing him emotional afterwards. Like the tears weren't necessary. Like, fuck off, Helmut, you fucking Helmut, living up to your name. But I would like to say as well, a massive respect to Anthony Hamilton for going out there and finding Isack Hadjar as he was coming back into the paddock to console him, really. I thought that was such a special moment. And you could see as well that Anthony Hamilton wasn't doing it for the cameras or anything like that. He was genuinely concerned, and he's just in a setting where the cameras were, you know what I mean? Everyone was trying to get a shot of Isack coming back in and seeing him crying because, you know, sad news stories sell. But Anthony was there just to genuinely console him, genuinely be there for him and just tell him not to worry, mate. Your time will come. You've got another week in China. Don't worry about it. You know, he did a great qualifying P11. Fair effort, respectable effort. Just couldn't see what he was capable of doing in the race. And yeah, it was unfortunate, but very, very nice to see Anthony being there for him and trying to be that little bit of a mentor for him, because he probably thought, shit, I'm going to go back to Red Bull. They're going to be fucking moaning at me. I'm going to have all this shit from my helmet, which he probably ended up with anyway. But at least he had that shoulder to cry on, and he had that reassurance from someone that's been in the sport a bloody long time. Seen literally everything, hasn't he? So yeah, really nice moment there. Isack Hadjar, 2 points from me as well. There's not much more to say about his race weekend other than strong qualifying. Didn't see anything of him in the race. And lovely touch from Anthony Hamilton. So there we have it then, guys. That concludes the first Cruel Room of 2025. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments section below. Did I score any drivers too high? Any too low? Worthy of the weeks? I've only got 3 to give. Were they the correct 3? Would you have given it to the other 3? Would you have not giving it to any of them? Just let me know down in the comments. As always, I love a good chat. The scoreboard's updated with the scores I have just awarded on the screen now for you to take a look at. Again, once again, a massive thank you for Dan Bartlett, formerly of Mushy Gaming, currently running under his own YouTube name, of course, now, Dan Bartlett, in case any of you weren't aware already, for his continued love and support with this series, for the intros, and for the driver icons you see on your screen, and for the scoreboard that you're looking at right now. Without him, this series would be more pointless than it already is. And who can forget, of course, Mr. Dave, F1 Games PlayStation, for providing me with all of the weeks that you all know and love. I am trying out and making sure there's no misogynistic or feminist remarks in these, Dave. Just letting you know. Paddock 43 have called and just reminded me how much of a naughty boy you are. Thank you as always for your continued love and support with the series, guys. It really does mean the world to me. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'll see you all next Tuesday, 6 PM for the Chinese Grand Prix, and it's a sprint weekend as well. Wow, aren't we blessed? Thanks a lot for watching, guys, and as always, much love.